Please tell us about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies?
My name is Yenika Lafon. I am a chemistry and biology teacher. The use of scientific gadgets, projectors, and the incredible teaching strategies by my high school teacher inspired me to start loving to become a science teacher. After graduating from high school, I enrolled in Faculty of Education in the University of Buea, where I studied curriculum studies and teaching. At the end of the third year, I graduated with second-class honors in biology. I was then employed to teach biology and chemistry in St. Peter's College, Kumbu. Having understood that educational psychology is also an important component in the teaching learning process, by 2005, I enrolled again in the University of Buea, where I studied educational psychology in master's degree. 2007, I graduated with second-class master's degree in educational psychology. The knowledge of educational psychology has enhanced my teaching skills with some special qualities in dealing with diverse students in inclusive classrooms. Since then, I have been teaching by using short lectures, discussions, cooperative learning, and team projects to inspire my students. My skills in technology have also facilitated the teaching of biology to my students. About my interests and hobbies, I love riding, I love gardening, I love reading and writing, and I also play volleyball.
Are you involved in extracurricular activities that you could coach or supervise?
Of course, I am a strong believer in extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities have a connection to classroom learning. During extracurricular activities, we discover some important talents and competencies in students that may not be expressed in the classroom. I am in charge of environmental club in my school. In this club, I teach my students how to protect the environment and preserve the environment as well. We do planting of trees, planting of flowers. We also sensitize the population against environmental pollution through writing of projects.
Why did you decide to become a teacher for the subject which you are applying?
My first science teacher in the secondary school was my role model, who made me to become a very good science student and now a chemistry and biology teacher. He used real life objects, including technology like microscope, in teaching with appropriate examples. He was always giving us assignments and doing correction to these assignments and discussing them. This made me to become a better science student than other subjects, and that is how I developed interest in science subjects.
Are you currently employed as a teacher?
Yes, I am currently employed as a teacher. I work under the Ministry of Secondary Education, and I teach in Okide Bilingual College in Douala.
How many hours per day do you teach, and how many days per week?
I teach 8 hours per day, and I teach 5 days per week.
Describe your teaching experiences. What subjects have you taught, and at what grade and level?
I teach biology and chemistry. I teach chemistry in first grade through middle grade, and I teach biology from first grade through middle grade up to the highest grade in high school. About my teaching experience, naturally, I love children and I love students. I love them when they learn and they are under my guidance. I love to give them knowledge, and I have enthusiasm for learning and creating an impact with my students that will never be forgotten. In this light, I try to employ all the available resources and technology, including the internet, in my classroom activities. And I evaluate my students, I give them take-home assignments, I give my students a feedback, and I give my parents too a feedback. I try to discuss with my parents, the parents of my students, about their children in relation to their academic development.
Describe other work experiences you have had beside teaching.
Besides teaching in the classroom, I am also a head of department. As a head of department, I do supervision teaching. I control setting of exams. I organize departmental meetings, and when newly recruited teachers are brought to our school, in the biology department, I'm going to give them an orientation and placement. I also give my school administration a feedback about what is happening in the biology department. I am also a GCE biology A-level examiner for the National GCE Examination Board. We set GCE and we do the marking and assessment.
Have you ever worked in the US? If so, when, where, and why?
I have never worked in the US.
What do you hope to be doing professionally in 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I think that I'm only going to continue as a teacher. In my current school, maybe if I return to my home country, in my current school, I am going to be teaching, or maybe perhaps I'm going to occupy a more responsible position, but still in the teaching field.
If I were to talk to several of your colleagues, how would they describe your personality?
I think that my colleagues will say that I am an organized, collaborative, and hardworking teacher who has wisdom, mentorship, and unity of purpose, and leadership qualities that can enable an institution to attain the objectives and the goals according to the stated standards.
What will your students say about you?
I think, or I believe that my students will say that I am a disciplined teacher, a good planning somebody, and a generous teacher who cares about their welfare and their academic development or academic success.
How do you prepare to teach your lesson?
In preparation to teach my lessons, when I am about to teach any topic, I will think about the available resources. I will think about the available materials. I will think about the kind of technology that will be involved during my teaching process. How the technology that will enable my students to understand the lessons easy, that will facilitate the teaching learning process. And then I will also do some research. I may go online and I will download information about the topic to see what is relevant to the content, and then I will develop my lesson plan.
What will your lesson plans include?
Normally, my lesson plans will always include the level of the students, the objectives of the lesson, the materials that are going to be used during the lesson, and then the technology that will help me to enable the students to understand my lessons very well. After this, I will then exploit all the necessary skills, and then I will develop my lesson plan, which will include at least 3 aspects: the introductory part, the body, and the evaluation. In the introductory part, I am going to include the previous knowledge or the entry behavior of my students, the knowledge that they have understood, or that they have already acquired, and then that is related to the present topic that will be taught. After that, I will then move to the body, which will include discussion, demonstrations. Then, if it is a lesson that involves hand-on activity, I will give instructions and then supervise, and the teacher will do something and the student will respond in one way or the other. And then I will move on to the evaluation point, where I may ask questions orally, or I may give them an exercise which they are going to do by writing, or I can share them some sheets where they are going to fill some information. At the end, we will discuss, mark, and then we discuss their strong points and their weak points, so that the students can get to know where they did not understand very well.
Think about a class that you taught recently. Talk about 2 of the teaching strategies or methods that you used.
I was teaching reproduction in humans in upper 6 science of recent, and one interesting point I would like to share is that the subtopic I was teaching was gametogenesis. After having taught the topic, I realized that most of the students in the classroom did not understand gametogenesis, which is the step-by-step method by which gamete cells or sex cells are produced in females and in males. I now decided to include the group teaching by dividing my class into 2 groups, and then I supplied them with some materials containing manually reproduced reproductive systems. And then the two groups had to go through the process to outline the steps in gametogenesis. Therefore, the other group was discussing about the formation of sex cells, the sperm cells in the testes of male organism, while the other group was discussing about the formation of egg cells in the ovary of the female organism. At the end of the day, the students presented in the class, and at the end of the day, I realized that all the students in the class who did not first understand the lesson, all of them understood the lesson, and it was a very interesting lesson. Another aspect where I used technology was in the middle grade, where I was teaching variety of life and classification of living organisms. When I realized that the students were not understanding, I had to maybe go online, and all of us assembled in the class, and we went online and we watched a video where one lady, a teacher, was teaching and explaining the fact that we have vast number of organisms, and in order to learn and know everything, have knowledge about all the specific organisms, we need to classify them. She explained that we need to use diagnostic characteristics of organisms, and finally, students had to understand that presently we are dealing with 5 system classification, 5 kingdom system classification, where the organisms have been streamlined into their 5 different kingdoms according to their diagnostic characteristics. The students also had to understand that things like viruses are not yet classified for the fact that they do not have characteristics of living organisms. And when they do have, maybe they are portraying characteristics of living organisms when they are found inside the living cells. And so it was an interesting class because the students had to know everything about classification of living organisms.
What methods do you use to grade or evaluate your students' progress?
Evaluation is an important and integral part of teaching learning process. Without evaluation, the teachers will not make an auto-evaluation of themselves. The teachers will not know whether they are teaching very well. Without evaluation, the teachers will not also understand whether the students are understanding what the teacher is teaching. The parents will not know whether the behavior of their children is changing positively in relevant to the knowledge that they are supposed to acquire in school. Therefore, I use various ways to teach, to evaluate my students. Like, I can carry out observation. I can use observation to evaluate my student. I can also give them quiz. I can give them a test. I can give them an examination. And sometimes I can also evaluate my students orally.
If you use technology in your teaching, describe how you use it.
One aspect I would like to describe how I include technology in my teaching is microscopy. I am a biology teacher, and biology is made up of theory and practicals. So in the laboratory, I use microscopy. Students and myself prepare animal cells and plant cells, the slides of animal cells and plant cells, and we mount them, and they observe these slides, they observe these specimens, and they label them. They also write annotations of these structures because biological diagrams or biological structures are related to their functions. They can also, sometimes we use original slides. We mount them and we study them in that way. The students get to see some structures which could not be seen with their naked eyes by the use of microscope. And at the end, they are going to appreciate the lessons because they will know the functions of the structures where they are found in living organisms.
Specifically, discuss your experience using a smart board and ways that you incorporate into your lessons.
Sometimes I include smart boards in my lessons in the sense that certain lessons require that I should use the smart board with the students, where the students are supposed to be writing their questions and their answers on smart boards. I could also demonstrate an activity, and then the students use their smart board in drawing or writing or questioning. At the end, sometimes I give an exercise where the students are working individually on their smart boards. As I move around, I will then check and see those who are doing well and those who are not doing well. At the end, sometimes I will also use the smart board and draw the right organism or what was expected, and then we'll discuss the points, and then the student will learn very fast. The fact that we are using smart boards, students stay in place, and then this also controls discipline and helps in the discipline in the class.
If you have students who are noisy or non-attentive, share with us 2 ways to get them to be quiet and concentrated.
Sometimes when I understand that there is noise in the class, while teaching, I will move towards the direction where the noise is coming from, towards the place where noise is coming from. When I am moving towards that direction, I will realize that the noise is going to reduce. And sometimes when I discover that there are disruptive students, those who always like to disturb or do one thing or the other, maybe they have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I will select those students and I put them closer to me where I can always observe them. And by doing so, I'm going to control noise in my classrooms.
Describe the most difficult problem you have had to deal with as a teacher, and how did you solve this problem?
I teach in inclusive classrooms. Sometimes when I read in the classroom, I will discover a small challenge with a particular student. He has a small problem, maybe a small learning disability, which will require that I should help that particular student so that all the students should be understanding at the same pace. And when you pay attention to some minor challenges like that, at the end you will see that you have used more time than expected. All this can always make you to be slow in your loop coverage or your work coverage. And so also we can do the correction, or I always do the correction by teaching faster when the classroom is very quiet, and when I have less challenges, I will move faster. And that is how I've been managing to solve this kind of problem.
Give one example to show that you are a flexible person and that you can make changes to your teaching and methods if that is necessary.
I believe that I am a flexible person because I can deal effectively with all people and students from all backgrounds and socioeconomic groups. I teach in inclusive classrooms. Sometimes I have students with individualized educational plan. Sometimes you find that the students are in the class, they have different learning needs and learning styles. Some students are fast learners, some are slow learners, others have a learning disability. Now, I respond to these learning differences in many different ways. For instance, sometimes I will have to modify a learning task for some particular student that have a difficulty. And sometimes I will evaluate one and the same task in different ways. Sometimes I can evaluate while others are writing a test for evaluation. Sometimes I will give an oral evaluation. I will ask questions to some particular students that have difficulty in writing, and then I will also grade them. Sometimes I will also have a special appointment with some students that have special challenges at school or at home. So all these are ways that I try to be very flexible with my teaching process.
Is there anything that you would like to add about your qualification?
About my qualification, I can only say here that I am also a PhD fellow, and that I am anticipating to defend a PhD thesis very soon from now.
Have you spoken to your family about going to the United States?
Yes, I have spoken to my family about going to the United States.
Is there anything such as family member that might object to your leaving home?
There is nothing as family member. All my family is very okay about leaving home.
Are you aware that your family members may not join you here until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after your arrival?
Yes, I am aware.
Do you understand and accept that FACES is a 3-year program, and after 3 years, you must return to your home country? Do you agree this?
Yes, I agree.